In July 1591, Anne Hutchinson was born Anne Marbury to Bridget Dryden and Francis Marbury in Alford, Lincolnshire, England. Francis Marbury was a deacon at Christ Church in Cambridge. He believed most ministers in the Church of England had gained their positions for political reasons. He dissented publicly the corruption, and was arrested and spent a year in jail. With her father as an example, Anne developed interest in religion early on. She was homeschooled and spent much of her time in her father's library, where she found many questions about faith. Because of her father's influence, Anne wasn't afraid of questioning the Church's principles of faith and authority. At 21, Anne Marbury married William Hutchinson, settling down in Alford to become a housewife and mother of 15 children. At this point, her family was following the sermons of John Cotton that were much like her father's, but were now accepted as Puritanism. Protestants had become concerned with the corruption within the Catholic and Protestant churches and wished to purify the national church of all Catholic influence. In 1834, John Cotton was relocated to the Puritan colonies in New England. William, Anne, and all their children soon followed, sailing across on the Griffin with John Lathrop. Originally, Anne believed people would be able to worship as they saw fit, but soon discovered there was no such thing as religious freedom in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Anne told other Puritans God had told her the exact day of arrival in the colony, which made leader John Cotton reconsider letting the Hutchinson family into his congregation. To gain Cotton's acceptance, Anne confessed to being guilty of wrong thinking. After being scolded for freely expressing her faith, Anne realized the oppressed had become the oppressors. She also realized that Puritans' freedom of religion meant the toleration of neighboring colonies' worship. John Winthrop, along with other leaders of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, wished to make a utopia, or a holy settlement, where worship meant a person didn't think or do, unless he or she was acting in accordance with the strictest interpretation of the Bible. This is where Anne's downfall would be. She was an educated woman in a time where women were viewed as servants to their husbands, having many children and raising them. Puritans believed women were morally weak and would lead men to damnation if allowed to think. Puritan rules, Anne held a women's club to discuss faith. The club would discuss scripture, pray, and review sermons. The club was also the perfect place for Anne to share her opinions. It was here that she shared her doctrine that salvation was found only through faith. This interested many men and women of the community, and Anne's club grew weekly. Magistrates and scholars even took notice of Anne. Anne's popularity and doctrine worried John Lathrop, the new governor of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, because it took power away from the church. He viewed her as a threat to the authority of men in power, because a woman expressing her opinion on the church weakened the integrity and ideals of the Puritan way of life. Out against Anne's meeting, saying they were a thing not tolerable nor comely in the sight of God, nor fitting for your sex. Anne had become the voice of dissent, and Winthrop was set upon silencing her. The law stated small prayer groups were allowed, but a large group listening to teachings and opinions of an individual were considered disorderly. Winthrop took legal actions against Anne's meetings and arrested her, placing her in the custody of the Marshal of Roxbury, Massachusetts. The trial was a far cry from a fair trial, seeing as Winthrop's diary claimed her as an American Jezebel who had gone a-whoring from God and stated she should be tried as a heretic. Anne was accused of antinomianism, the belief that Christians are not bound by established moral laws, but to rely on faith and divine grace for salvation. She believed the law should be interpreted by each person according to their conscience. Winthrop disapproved of this because he believed one needed to be knowledgeable in the Bible of Puritan texts to gain salvation. Anne also caused a stir in the Puritan world by saying that Native American slavery and prejudice was wrong, and banished from the colony. She, her family, and some of her followers lived in exile on a small island in present-day Rhode Island. This is where death met the Hutchinson family. First, William passed away, and a few years later, Anne, 5 of her children, and her servants were massacred by an Algonquin tribe in September 1643. Many viewed the massacre as God's final judgment. Anne Hutchinson was an amazing woman, unafraid of voicing her opinion. Today, she serves as a role model to many.